So the first thing to remember when you're planning a triathlon training plan is that it needs to be specific. And what I mean by specific is that it's tailored to you specifically. There's certain things that you need to take into account when you're training a plan for yourself specifically, and one of the most important factors is the time that you have available to train. Another important factor is your current level of fitness and what your current exercise time for the week is at present. So if you've been training for 5 or 6 hours a week already, and that's been consistently happening, you've been feeling good on that, and your training's been improving as you've been doing it, then absolutely you can step up from there. Taking a jump from doing nothing to doing 8 or 9 hours a week is going to be too big a leap, and we'll probably see you kind of end up overtrained and not getting the return you need on your training. Which brings me nicely into the next point you need to consider when you're planning your triathlon training, which is recovery. Recovery is really, really important. And the main reason why recovery is important is that no training is beneficial unless you're able to grow off the back of it. And what I mean by that is that your body becomes anabolic in response to the training. That requires that you grow and you repair following the training. The alternative to being anabolic is being something in a state of catabolism or being catabolic, and that means that your body's breaking down and becoming weaker. Now, if we get the level of your training wrong, then it's likely that actually you may be catabolic rather than anabolic, and that's not a desired state for your body to be in. So recovery is king when it comes to your triathlon training plans and should be scheduled within your training. The next very important point when it comes to planning your triathlon training is to identify your personal strengths and weaknesses. So when it comes to getting the maximum bang for your buck, then identifying what your weaknesses are first is the key to you creating as much leverage as possible. So if you were to continually work on your strengths and continually develop your strengths, then you're only going to get a very small percentage improvement in what you can achieve. If you work on your weaknesses, your percentage improvement is going to be far greater. So I'd encourage you to take regular reviews of where you are, what's your reality, and off the back of that, start to plan your training to manipulate your weaknesses to try and turn them into strengths. And that will see you kind of having a massive improvement in your triathlon. Finally, your plan needs to be taken over a scaled approach in terms of the time that it lasts. So you need to begin with the end in mind. You need to know what your outcome is before you start your training. That helps you to take a large-scale view of where you're going to be when you come to the end of the triathlon training plan. Once you know where you want to be, you can then work back from then to split the block of time up, to plan in your recovery, to work out which periods of that time scale are going to be higher in volume, because that's what your diary allows, and which areas of that block is going to be less volume because you've got other work commitments or family commitments and bits and pieces that might get in the way, and that allows you to plan that time in to make sure that you succeed with sticking with your triathlon training plan. Once you've set out that large scale plan, then you can break it down into 4-week blocks. Each of those 4-week blocks needs to have a focus and needs to have an outcome. Now that outcome is dependent upon, one, where you're at the moment. So what's your reality? What are your strengths and your weaknesses? What are you going to be focusing on? But also on what is the event you're going to be training for. So how long does the event last? What intensity are you hoping to work at throughout the event? What energy systems do you need to train most to get exactly what you need from your event? And they're the different bits that you need to focus those 4-week blocks on. The 4-week blocks will, as they become closer to the event, your type of training will become more and more specific to that actual event. Whereas in the beginning they may have been quite general and they were about developing your your metabolic efficiency, which is your ability to use fat as fuel readily and easily, and to spare as much of your glycogen stores as possible. Finally, you then need to take those 4-week blocks and turn them into week-long cycles and daily cycles of what your immediate focus is. Every single training session should have an outcome. And I'd encourage you to know your outcome of every single training session before you start. Then your state and your focus on each session can be so much greater if you know what you're trying to get out of it.
To find out more and see our main video, click the video playing right now and it will take you to our main video. Click there now and we'll see you there in a second.